So in this video, I'm going to show you how to set up Docker running Kali and then being able to use that container to connect to hackthebox. And then I'm also going to show you how to set up an SSH tunnel to connect from, let's say, Burp or a Firefox into the container so you can use the VPN and have some fun on hackthebox. Okay. So the first thing you need is, of course, Docker. You can go to docker.com and just go ahead and grab the installer for your operating system. So once you have Docker installed, the next thing you'll need is your OVPN file that you can grab from hackthebox. And you will be using this file to connect to hackthebox via OpenVPN. Before we can create a container in Docker, we will need to download an image. And the image we're going to download is, of course, Kali Linux. To do this, we're going to use the command docker pull. And then we're just going to give it the image name. Now at this point, we have the Kali Linux image downloaded. Now the next step is to create our container using this image. We can do it simply by typing in docker run. And then we also need to give Docker more privileges than it would have with just a default container. And the reason for that is so that we can actually use OpenVPN on it. And then we're also going to define the port that the container and the host will communicate to. Since we're going to be running an SSH server in the container, we are going to be using port 22 on the container, but we're going to map it to port 2222 on the host. And then we're just going to give our container a name. In that case, I'm just going to call it Kali, and then the image that we just downloaded. Okay, so at this point, we have a container running with a clean, very base install of Kali. So now we're going to connect to this container. And we're going to make sure that we're going to use bash. Okay, so now we're connected into the container, and now you can just work with it like you would with Kali. So at this point, we're just going to do an apt update. So at this point, now we need to install all of our Kali tools. We're going to be installing a meta package called Kali Linux Headless, which includes all our Kali tools without GUI. So you'll get all the command line tools, just no GUI programs. Okay, now this process is going to take a little bit of time. Could take a few minutes. So after a few minutes, we now have a full install of Kali Linux. Before we can start the SSH service and connect into our container, we do need to create a user account, and that can easily be done using user add. And we're going to call the user Kali user. And now we're also going to go ahead and set the password for Kali user. And of course, we're going to take a super secure password. Okay, so now we're ready to go ahead and run our SSH service. And we're going to move over to another terminal. And in this one, we're actually going to copy our hackthebox OVPN file into the container so we can actually use it to run OpenVPN. And you can easily do that using the docker cp command. And you give it the name of the file, your source file, and then the destination, which will be our container name, which is Kali. And then since we're root, we're just going to drop it into our root folder. So at this point, it's been successfully copied. So now we're going to jump back over to our running container. And now we're going to make sure that the file is here, which it is. And all we really have to do now is just type in OpenVPN and then the file name. And at this point, we got an OpenVPN connection to hackthebox. At this point, you can actually start using Nmap and command line tools. But what if you wanted to use Burp Suite? What if you wanted to use your web browser? Right now, they're not connected to your OpenVPN connection. So that's what we're going to set up next. Okay, so at this point, we have a container running Kali and an OpenVPN connection connected to hackthebox. We also have a user account and SSH running. So now we're going to go ahead and set up a tunnel into the container so we can use that connection from Firefox or Burp Suite. To set up a connection, we'll go ahead and use SSH. And I'm going to go ahead and pick port 2024. Now we're going to use the credentials that we created, which is Kali user. And since we're running locally, it's going to be localhost. And the port we're going to connect to is going to be 2222. Okay, now that we have an SSH connection to our container, we're now able to go ahead and pull up Firefox and set up the proxy to proxy our traffic to the container. Now with Firefox pulled up and looking at the connection settings, we will configure a manual proxy. We will use the SOCKS host. So it's going to be localhost, and the port is going to be 2024. Go ahead and click OK. Now we should be able to reach the internet. Now we pulled up Google not using my internet connection, but actually using the VPN connection in the container. Now to verify that you really are connected to hackthebox, spin up a machine, grab the IP address, and let's give it a try. As we see, now I'm using Firefox on my machine connected to the container, and then I am able to access a machine on hackthebox. So now that we verified that it's working, let's hop over to Burp and configure Burp to also use our proxy. Now in Burp, click on Settings, go to Connections, and scroll all the way down to where it says SOCKS proxy. In here, we're going to go ahead and put in localhost and the port, which was 2024, our username, which was Kali user, and our super secret password. Check the box that says use SOCKS proxy and do DNS lookup over SOCKS proxy. Once the proxy is set up, what we can do now is go ahead and open up a browser, paste in our IP address for the machine that we're trying to target. And if everything goes well, we should see the website show up again. Once the website loads, we can go back to Burp and we can see that it's actually capturing our traffic coming from the Docker container. So at this point, you're all set up to have some fun on hackthebox using Kali in a Docker container, and also have the ability to use tools outside of the container to connect to hackthebox.